Welcome to Negotiating Happiness, the show that helps you find happiness, success, and balance in your work and life. I'm Adriana, your host for this journey into entrepreneurship and personal growth. We're broadcasting live on 107.7 and 105.3 FM in New Orleans as part of the United Public Radio Network. We explore the latest strategies, insights, and stories from successful entrepreneurs and experts. From managing stress to building a thriving business, we've got you covered. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Adriana Fierstro, and I am your host of Negotiating Happiness, and we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM in the beautiful city of New Orleans. If you want to sit back and relax and watch some of our shows on the network on your big screen TV, all you have to do is go on Roku TV and type in UFO Paranormal, and we'll be there. Hello, everybody. It is 1 o'clock Eastern time here, so grab your coffee, grab your lunch, and let's just dive in. I'm here today with Christine. Hello, Christine.
Hello, Adriana. So great to be here with you today.
Yay, it's all working. We had some technical difficulties, but we are here, people. We are showing up on this Monday.
It's the Mondayest of Mondays.
I know, and it's so close to the holidays that I think we're just all over it, to be honest. So here we are, though. Best foot forward, right? So today, thank you so much, Christine, for coming on. We will be diving into your experience about why being yourself is best in business strategy and in life. So I can't wait to talk about this advantage of, being authentic and what that means and how you work with your clients to kind of put that forward. Just a reminder, everybody, that we are live. So if you want to send in your questions and comments, we would love to hear them or see them. If you are over on the Instagram side, I have to post them as my own comments over here for you to see it on the screen, but please don't be discouraged. Even if you're on Instagram, we will be watching out. And if you have any questions for Christine, please let us know. So who is Christine? I'm just going to do a little quick intro here. So Christine is a speaker and life coach who's passionate about guiding women to living more fulfilling and joyful lives. Christine leads her clients through their personal growth journey to support them as they learn how to deepen their connection to self, build confidence and self-trust, and release what no longer serves them so they can clear the path to make empowering decisions for themselves and live more authentically in a life they enjoy. Christine juggles various projects, one of which is running Bloom social events with her colleagues, which is one of my favorites. This is how I met Christine. So stay tuned. I will be asking Christine of what's coming up on the calendar in the new year. So again, thanks so much for coming on. I would love to just start out a little bit. We usually do, we kind of dive into what does your entrepreneurship journey look like, Christine? How did all of this start?
Well, thank you again for the lovely introduction. And it's kind of a long story, so I'm going to try to short form it for you because I can tend to be quite a long form talker.
We like to talk. It's okay. We like to talk.
Okay, that's good then. I actually got started on my entrepreneur journey back in, when was that? 2018. I was working corporately and not really loving my life and found myself frustrated more than happy and excited in the life that I was living and the experience I was living. And so I'd had this, what I refer to as a heart fart. I had gone out there and seen an opportunity and got really excited about it. And it took me about a year and a half to bring it to fruition and eventually leave my corporate job and jump into something that was completely different than what I was doing corporately. And started running boutique wine tours from Waterloo region here in Canada, where I live, to a region not too far from me. So they were like day trips. I took people out for experiences, brought women together, primarily women together. And we had great conversation, great experience, food and drink, and all the things. And it was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed it. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. And here in Canada, things, and especially in Ontario, things moved a lot slower at this side of the world. And so, unfortunately, and fortunately, it had really great impacts on my business. So I went from growing the business about 300% by year 2, and then facing real challenges because I couldn't do much of my business in the world. But one of the things I really connected with was how in that time, so many people were losing connection. They weren't feeling joy. They weren't having fun. They weren't connected to anything because we were all home alone. And so I started creating virtual experiences and just bringing people together. And I think that it's kind of where my heart lit up even more, because as much as I didn't love being virtual, I was still able to connect with people in a way that alivened them, right? That took us out of this really not so fun time and moved into something that was more fun. And the long and the short of it, I told you, it's a long, I'm giving you kind of the long, short version, is that after a couple of years of doing that and doing all the things, and when everything opened up and I was doing the tours and I was doing the virtual parties, and I was doing all these different things, I actually ended up burning myself out. And I came to a conclusion not too far after absolute burnout and needing to just completely take a time out, complete break, and leave my business, because I realized that my people pleasing and my wanting and desire to make everybody else around me happy had completely taken over my experience and took all the joy out of my life. And I found myself pouring into everybody else's cup except for my own. And it literally depleted me 100%. And so that's where the journey started. And what is really interesting is that at first I felt really defeated in that, but then quickly realized that as I was recovering from burnout and as I was recovering from being in a place where I was constantly, actually referred to it as energy pleasing, as I was doing all of those things all the time, I realized that I wasn't the only one. And as I started to talk to women, I realized that so many of us are in this place where we give so much of ourselves to everybody else, but we don't ever really pour back into our own cup. We feel selfish. We feel like there's, it's not appropriate. We feel guilt when we take care of us. And so I realized that I wasn't the only one impacted by burnout and this people or energy pleasing, and that I could help a whole bunch of other women, release themselves from the burden of having to feel like they had to be everything for everybody else, and instead lean into the power of taking care of themselves. And so it's been a journey the last couple of years. That's what I've really leaned into. And so I primarily support women as they are on their journey, whether they're entrepreneurs or career women, or they're just looking to improve the experience of their personal life. I help them to uncover, the power within them and the desire to do more for them, because that's where our joy comes from, is not just pleasing everybody else and standing in like everybody else, wants us to or needs us to, but standing in a way that also, lifts us up, also fills our cup. And it's a win-win is essentially what I help women to do.
Right. And thank you so much for sharing that story. And I just wanted to point out that it can't be easy deciding to give up on something that you started out of pure joy or that you've poured so much of yourself into. And it's never an easy task to even be done with it completely. I find that as women, we decide to take it on, and then say, oh, this is too much. Maybe I'll just take a break. But it's really, really hard to just let go completely of something, right? So when I was reading your bio and everything, I think that was such an important part for me, because everyone's like, we'll learn how to do all of these wonderful positive things, and then there's no like cycle, right? Like the cycle is like you have to make space in order to bring those new positive things. So that's really interesting how that kind of came full circle for you, because you had to let go of something that you cared about in order to make space for this brand new venture that you're on, right?
Yeah. And it was like, and anybody who, of course, has started a business, it's like your baby, right? You pour everything that you have into this thing. I put not only my energy and my time and my my creativity and all of these things to pour into these experiences, but I also took everything financially that I had to put toward it, right? So coming to terms not only with letting my baby go, and recognizing that a big part of what I struggled with at that time was thinking that I was a failure because the business wasn't going to continue, that I was somehow a failure. And what were people going to think of me? And, if I fail, why would anybody want to listen to me? Why would anybody want to work with me if I'm this failure who couldn't figure it out? And the truth of it was that, like, it wasn't that I couldn't figure it out. It was that there was this thing that happened in the world that took us out, right? A lot of us. It was great for some businesses, not so great for others. But also, I think it was also recognizing in me these ways that I was showing up in the world. And that there's nothing wrong with showing up in great joy and connection with people and giving your heart to people and helping them really enjoy an experience. But also that we can pour from, or we overflow from a full cup. We can't pour from an empty one. And ultimately, that was the biggest lesson that I learned. It was like, I gave everything to it, but then that was the stickler in it, right? Like, that's what brought me down.
Right. And we also do it from a place of fear, because if we weren't fearful, we would learn how to let go of things a lot easier. It's like you said, it's like, why would people be listening to me? So it's not only do you have to get over what other people might think of it, you have to get over your like inner fear of what does that really say about me. But we've had many episodes where we talked about how you can learn and grow from failure, right? And I love using this example, but everybody in the digital space knows Canva, right? And Canva is a large platform. If you don't know it, for, graphic design, for, you do all of your marketing materials on them. Huge platform. Everybody knows it. Everybody uses it. It's a subscription. It's paid or free. Really great reach. I think the creator of Canva got turned away 40 times for capital. Imagine if she had just said, I'm done hearing no, or I'm done with this project. I'm done. Then we would never have Canva. We would never have something. And don't get me wrong, I was into that graphic stuff before then. And while the platforms were wonderful, they were not Canva. They were not as user-friendly. They were not as easy to, easy to explain to other people. This was really great for the people in our sphere. So imagine if that person would have given up. So now this is a story that I use all the time. It's like, what are you afraid of? Is somebody else saying no to you? Who cares? Move on, right? Imagine if that's you.
Yeah, well, and the fact that, like, nobody other than us knows what's possible for us, right?
Right.
So, like, we know inside of us what we're capable of, and we're often looking outside of us to get the approval of others to move forward with that thing. And the truth is that nobody else knows what we're capable of. Nobody else knows what's truly on our heart. Well, nobody else knows what is possible for us except for us.
Right.
And without taking risk, we will never know if it actually is for us. And like you said, if we don't ever experience failure is often our greatest teacher, right?
Right.
Because it means that I'm sure you've talked about this in your show lots of times. It's like, as soon as we try something, like, we're putting ourselves out there, it's like a really vulnerable place to be. And it's also a practice ground, right? It's like we get to get out there and try something. And, like, I'm not going to look back on my life and go, oh, I didn't know because I never tried. Instead, I'll be like, oh my gosh, look at all these things that I learned and all these things I got to create and all these ways I got to support people because I was willing to take the risk to step out of my comfort zone and do the thing anyway,
Right. It's amazing. Yeah. So we have a comment here from Leaders Lounge Canada. Hello, Phil. I love that you're tuning in. And she says, love that. What an awe moment. You can always pivot. It's so true. You can always pivot. And I work with a lot of small businesses that have been super successful for the past 10, 15 years, but the landscape has just changed. So it doesn't take anything away from them, but now they're experiencing some difficulties because they're not used to this new landscape. And it's like, you're not failing, it's just, you have to pivot. You have to continuously change and move and evolve, right? And this is part of it.
Yeah, things are always changing and there's going to be always a different approach. And, I think that's one of the biggest things too about also doing things authentically and doing things that feel right for us is not just necessarily jumping on every trend, but finding the things that really fit us, really work for us, really align with us,
Right. What is one thing that you would say to somebody who is kind of in the middle of making that kind of a decision? What is one thing that you wish somebody told you when you were in that position?
Which position exactly? Needing to pivot?
Like when just pivoting and just learning to let go. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I would say the first thing is like, I wish someone had just told me to take a breath, take a breath and just ask yourself, what makes you the happiest? Because if something is taking all of your energy and joy, and it is just taking from you and it's not pouring back into you, then it's probably not for you, right?
Right.
We're not here to be in pain all the time. We're not here to be suffering all the time and just, struggling through all the things constantly just to get to the end goal. The end goal can change. The whole landscape can change. We can completely change our mind on what we're doing. We just have to ask ourselves, what feels best for me? Outside of what everybody else out there says or what they want, what is best for me? And how can I best move forward that's going to feel aligned, that's going to feel good? And I can have both. I can put my heart into something and work hard towards something and be of help or assistance and service to something. And how can I also take care of me? Because it's the duality, right?
Right. No, that's really, really great advice. It's unfortunate though that sometimes when we're in those situations, our brain is probably going at, a million miles an hour. And like you said, nobody tells you to just take a breath. You're just thinking, what's the next move? What's the next move?
Yeah. And I think too, we do get tunnel vision because we literally can only see this way, right? This is why, when someone stood in front of me and literally helped me pull out this piece and move it over here and say, okay, Christine, let's look at it from this view instead of from this view. And they really were able to help me align with that and see things differently. It changed the game for me. And so when I sat back and realized how somebody else helped me see, I realized I can help other people see, right?
Right.
But what we do, and especially as women, what we do is we keep it all to ourselves. We hold it all tight to ourselves. We silo ourselves. We don't tell other people what's going on. And we have a really hard time accepting the help, right? And so we typically don't look for the support and help, but truly often that's exactly what we need because we can't see the forest through the trees, so to speak,
Right. So that's why you're there to help out. I love that. We have another question from Instagram. So from Leaders Lounge Canada, it says, can you share how this impacted you with any of your collaborators or suppliers? So how did you handle that?
As in the pivot? I'm guessing that's what it's related to, the shifting gears. I think, especially for me, I had so many different vendors and partners that I worked with through that time when I was working with my other company, and we had so many conversations, and there was so many relationships built during that time of the period that the business was running that I just kept open communication for the most part, right? We were all struggling. And so when I finally made the decision, I didn't just go out there and blurt it to everybody, but I did have those connection conversations with those people and just say, what, I would love to continue, but I'm just no longer able to work in this manner. I'm just not able to do it anymore. I have to let it go. And it doesn't mean that I'm, done with our relationship. It doesn't mean that I'm done, sending people to your region. It doesn't mean that I'm done with these kinds of experiences forever. It just means that right now I'm tapped out and I have to pour back into me, right? It's just not working anymore. So it definitely impacted in the sense that, naturally I wasn't bringing people to them anymore. So it impacted them not having those people come. But also they weren't really coming during the pandemic anyway, right? So it was sort of like that mutual connection, that relationship where we were able to keep that conversation going and be able to just be honest about what was going on,
Right. And I say this all the time. I feel like the people that work with you that want you to see you succeed, or that you generally have a good relationship with. They don't want to see you burned out. They don't want to see you stressed out, because it doesn't really help them in any way either, right? So if you are working with people that are saying nonsense, you have to do this, that's just like a giant wake-up call to say, hey, there are some people that you need to let go of in your life as well that are not going to be serving you long-term anyway. But the people that you do make those relationships with, I find that they want to see you succeed. So they're like, great, keep me in the loop. Well, I want to see what you do next, right? And typically, if you are one of those service providers, like you said, that you want to nurture these relationships, you typically have other contacts, or you typically have some other sort of, hey, I can't do this, but I can connect you with so many other great people, right? But I think what the most important part that you said was, you just have to be open. You just have to keep the lines of communication open, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's not easy for anybody. And I think too, like on that point of collaboration, sometimes when we align with people that the relationship isn't coming, or we can't, it's not a win-win. Like it's okay to acknowledge that and say, you know what, this relationship isn't working anymore. We're not both getting what we need, because it has to be a win-win-win, right? I have to win, you as a supplier have to win, and my client has to win. So if we're not all winning in the situation, then it's not a good business relationship. It's not a good personal relationship. Like relationships in general, it's sometimes we do have to leave things behind, or people behind, because we just can't move forward with, that sort of obligation or sort of weight on us,
Yeah, and it's more of I find like this is a subject that has to do with sustainability rather than, short-term results. Like a lot of people, when they first start out, they're very focused on short-term results rather than kind of looking ahead. And I understand why, because that's the time where you just want to hustle. So you'll say yes to anything, you'll do the things that later on you will regret, but it does bring you up to the point where you can like, hold on, I can actually start being selective about what I bring into my own life, right? But if you are looking for things long term and you're realizing it's not sustainable, at some point it would have had an expiration date, and you just need to start being okay with that, right?
100%. And too, like sometimes you just have to try things on. It's like the same thing as getting it started in the first place. Sometimes you have to try something on and it's not a good fit, and you have to move on. It's as simple as that.
It's true. It's true. And I am really grateful for my clients. Typically my clients are great and they understand that I'm a person too. And then when it's my turn, I then understand that they're a person too, right? So it just kind of goes around. Like you said, it has to be mutually beneficial, or else long term, it doesn't really make sense, right?
Yeah. And I think, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that too. Like, I think often, especially when we're new in business, we do want to take on and say yes to everything because we're hungry, right? We want our business to succeed. And oftentimes what we learn along the way, or hopefully we learn along the way, is that, just by accepting any kind of business does not mean good business, right? So we can attract a certain kind of clientele. And if they go and tell all the people that are like them, and that's not who you really want to be attracting, now all of a sudden you're attracting all the kinds of people that really aren't the kind of people you want to work with. So, I think that it's like building a business is a lot like building a family, right? You're surrounding yourself with people that are going to be supportive. You're all winning together. You can communicate. You can, support each other. And sometimes, it's just not a match.
Yeah, no, it's true. So if we're to go into, obviously this is a much larger conversation, into this whole being authentic, right, in your business and life, how do you know? I've always struggled with this myself, right? Coming from the corporate world and how you're not supposed to do certain things. And now in the digital world, it's kind of like I'm a personal brand. I can do what I want, right? As long as I'm resonating and I'm not hurting anybody, like I can do what I want, it took a while to get there. But how do you know when sharing something about yourself is too much? Like how much authenticity is too much authenticity, if that's possible?
This is a great question. First, I think that it's possible that some people misunderstand what it means to show up authentically. It doesn't mean just spilling out everything and all the things all the time. That is not really authentic, right? It's I would say that it's mostly what a rule that I live by with some colored lines, some jagged lines I can color in and outside of, is that if I am sharing something, because usually for me, authenticity equals vulnerability. It means that I'm showing up as I am. It means that I'm showing up and I'm sharing experiences that have happened in my life. And so as a personal coach, as somebody who helps people, right, live in more of aligned spaces in their lives, I'm not just asking them to do the work and share from their vulnerability. I'm also going to share from mine. Because the more that I share as I am a human and the things that I have experienced, then they're going to feel more comfortable to share with me too. It's a two-way street, right? It's part of that relationship building. But I would say like that rule that I sort of live by is if I'm still in pain from the thing or the experience, I'm not sharing from a place of pain. Instead, I'm sharing from a place of the lesson. So when things are happening in the moment is not often the time that I'm sharing, right? Especially if something is really big. So for example, when I realized that I had to close my last business and I realized that I was going to lose everything. And I realized that I was taking a huge ego hit from having to do that. And that I felt like I was a failure and I was afraid of all of these things. I didn't tell anybody any of those things until I could come at it from a different place where I could say, hey, you know what? This is happening. But this is happening, but also here's what I'm learning. This is what's happening. And here's also what benefits are occurring as a result. Here's where I'm growing as a result of learning this lesson, right? So it's not just go out and bear all and say all the details and just tell everyone my big sad story. It's coming from a place of, I've already been, right, living in that experience. And now that I've got a place that I can speak to from experience in it and from that lesson space, now I've got an opportunity that I can share about it, right?
Right. And that can be easily translated into content, right? We spend a lot of our time figuring out how to post ourselves authentically online, how to let our potential, connections know what we're truly like. And I always find the digital space to be very tricky for that. It's like you said, you don't bear it all, but I do think that they need to see some of your journey or at least understand that you know where they're coming from, or that you're not just swinging around wins everywhere, right? I think that's really important too. Like, for example, I hate the marketing that's all about make 6 figures instantly tomorrow, right? I hate it so much because they don't teach anything about sustainability or stability in something, or how that's going to impact your community later on, what you're building, right? So I like this whole authentic, showing up authentically, but it has to be consistent, it has to be everywhere, right? So for me, talking like this in a podcast where it's not rehearsed, it's just me, things just come out. I find that to be part of my authentic self, right? Sometimes it sounds a little crazy, sometimes it doesn't. That's okay. That's just me. This is what we're going to be talking like if we were to work together, right? And then showing up on my feed where I'll say, hey, your website might not cut it. Mine didn't. I've changed it 3 times. You know what I mean? So to me, it's like this fine balance of what do you think people are going to take out of it in terms of value? Is that valuable, or is it just becoming like one of those, like, like, are you going to be an influencer where they get to see you live, like crying and screaming because something happened, right? Like, that's not the goal, I don't think. So that question had to be asked to say what's authentic.
Yeah, well, an unpopular opinion, would be that we're not always going to do things that are for everyone, number one, right? And I think we're often quick to, we hear 50 people say, oh my gosh, this is amazing, I love this. And then we hear one person say, I don't like this, you should do this, you should do that. And we hone in on that negative, right? Our brains are kind of tuned into that negative comment. And it's like we want to fix it, right? But the truth is, we have 50 other people that have consumed your service or enjoy what it is that you have to offer. And that one person out of 50 is not enjoying or aligned with your service. That's okay. They don't have to be, right? Not everybody is going to be your customer, right? And I think that when we're showing up authentically in our businesses, we're showing up and not everybody's going to want to hear what we have to say. Not everyone's going to align with that. And that's okay. right?
Right. Yeah. No, exactly. It just seems to me that it's now a race to who can do socials better these days, and we talk about this a lot, and that's just not the vibe, right? Like if that's what you're worried about, maybe that's the kind of industry you're in, fine. But typically the people that we talk to are not those people. They're the people that are trying to sell a service, that have passion for helping others, or for providing others with some sort of value, right? So creating a community is probably a lot more important than getting the views, or honing in on. I love it when people start shaming other people, and you're like, okay, you've definitely lost like the goal here, right? Not to say here's a real topic that we talk about all the time, like scope creep, and people not seeing the value in your service. Then we start talking about what is the ideal client for you, but we wouldn't, you would never go on and say, how dare you, so and so, you can go do it yourself then. Like, that's just wild to me when I see that online.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is like, again, we're often hearing all of these shoulds. I should show up in social media this way. I should be going after this many clients. I should be making this kind of money. I should be, having this achievement goal. And
Right.
Don't get me wrong, achievements and goals are awesome things to have on your plate, and they're great things to strive for. And also, is that when we are building relationships and we are building business, like I come from, and I believe you're the same, is like a heart-led space. If I'm coming from a heart-led space and I have a heart-led business, my number one focus is not on my revenues coming in. It's amazing when they come in. It's awesome when they come in. But if my number one focus is just more dollars, I'm not in it for the right reason. Number one, I'm in it just to make money. And big picture, that probably will not have great success, right? It might show up for a short period of time, make lots of money, but where is and again, it comes back to authenticity. Where is the connection and alignment for us in that? So what are we going after when we're just looking to have more followers, have more clicks, have more money in the bank account? It's like, well, those are the achievement markers. And truthfully, there are certain ways that we show up that support us better than others. But if we instead focus on delivering what our heart is leading us to deliver, and connecting and making those relationships, and even if it's 150 people, hey, you've now got 150 people that are really connected to your message, instead of having 50,000 people that are disconnected from your message. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And it's so true. And I kind of slipped into it last year. I'll give you an example. I was looking at my followers list. So first off, I've never been like, oh, I need to get to a certain amount. I knew that wasn't going to help me in any way, especially because I was just talking about how I had a couple of wins last year. I think I got 5 different projects just in the span of December, and they all came from Instagram. So I was like floored. I was like, what is happening? Right. But it was just the consistency, right? Shout out to Taylor for keeping me consistent on Instagram, right? So that was just the consistency paying off, even though it was maybe once a week, maybe twice, right? Like, it's nothing crazy. So I said this year, I was like, I want to get to 1,000 followers, not thinking that how is that going to really help me, right? Here I am in December 16th, and I'm still not 900, right? So what are the odds? Probably very slim. But then I started thinking about it. I'm like, but how is that going to help me? How is that going to just so I could like tick a box? So I think even when we do make these goals, we just need to kind of keep grounded to say, what is the long-term, effect of this? How is that really going to help me? Am I going to go into January with a significant loss that I'm not at 1,000 followers? Absolutely not. I am not. My life will continue the same. I will continue servicing my clients the same, and Taylor's going to keep me consistent on Instagram still. So, you know what I mean? So what's that really solving for you?
Yeah, it's funny because I remember someone once saying, I forget where this came from, but it certainly is not mine. Someone saying, no matter how many people show up, whether it's on your Instagram, whether it's in your stories, whether you're live in person somewhere, you're speaking at an engagement, if there is one person in the audience You still speak to that one person like you would speak to 100, like you would speak to a 200 or 1,000 or 150,000, right?
Yeah.
So you're showing up no matter what, no matter how many people are there. Because is it great to have more people? Sure. But we have to ask ourselves, like, why am I going for that goal? Like you said, how is that serving me? Okay. Instead, would I like to attract 2 more clients in my business to do one-to-one coaching? Amazing. Yes. So now maybe I can align myself with that goal instead of I just want to have, 500 more followers. Instead, actually, I want to make more connections. And I know, like, based on math, if I reach out and have 40 connections with people and I'm having these little side conversations with people, that out of those 40 conversations, 1 or 2 of them are likely to convert to a client. Right. And that's the energy that we can put in. It's like, what do we want the outcome to be? And what kind of energy are we aligning with to get that, right? It's like, you hear when people say, oh, you have to post 5 or 7 times a week on Instagram or 3 times a day. Like,
no, you don't. No, you don't.
Right? Not only is it exhausting, but who can actually do that and manage a business, especially when you're a micro business, right? If you're not at the stage where you have a whole team and you have all these people doing these things and you're the one wearing all the hats, that's not realistic, right? So it's like, is it realistic? Does it feel good? Right? Can I find a way to do it that feels good for me and get my message across? And then how can I convert those conversations?
And also, just to point out this whole craziness of 5-6 times a week, if your audience is just seeing you ask for something 5-6 times a week, they're less likely to engage with you because you're asking them for something. And like, if you're just saying register for this, and I've made those mistakes too, register for this, go do this, go do that. They're not seeing the value in following your journey along, especially if you're a personal brand or especially if you're trying to show up authentic. So you could be remixing the same content over and over where you're asking them to join your webinar or your course, whatever the case might be, but they're not getting any of the value. So people get so caught up on how many times to post and they have no strategy. There's no repeatable process to it. So there's nothing that they're offering in terms of education or of, hey, here's how you could do this yourself or whatever the case may be. I share the platforms that I work with all the time. Does that mean that somebody's going to go out there and use some of those platforms without me going through a consult with them? Yeah, for sure. Does that take away from me? No, because those are the people that weren't ready to invest anyway, because they're testing the waters and it's okay to do that. It's okay for them to see, oh, this actually involves a lot more than just logging in. You know what I mean? And then eventually they might make their way back to say, hey, I'm getting information from your account. What else do you know? You know what I mean? So I think we're just too bogged down with, we have to do this, we have to do that for the algorithm. I think once we stop paying attention to the algorithm, our lives get a little bit easier. And of all people, I've tried to kind of keep up with the new ways of doing things for the algorithm. And I truly don't think that they ever reveal what the actual algorithm does. I think it's just a case of like, have good practices when you post and post really good value. And I think you'll get some sort of result from it. And also posting more is not going to get you featured as much now anyway. So according to Instagram, they're putting a lot more value on how many people interact with your posts rather than how many times you're posting, how many times because what it means is to them, it's plain and simple. It's money for them. It's how long you're keeping a user on their app. If you're helping keeping them on longer, then it's more beneficial for them. So the more value you can put in your posts where you can interact with your community, that's how you're going to get results, right? So we're slowly, I think, shifting the right way, but some people are still very focused on getting the attention, getting the followers, getting the whatever. And I say this all the time. It's like, this is not the way, guys. This is not the way.
Yeah. It's also the messages that we receive, right? It's like all about how many people like me, how many people are following me. And it relates to how we are accepted. Who are we as a human? You like me? Right. Yeah, you like me. Oh no, you stopped following me. Why don't you like me anymore? And now I'm going to go and shift what I'm doing because one person doesn't like me anymore. We're here as unique individuals. We all have something really different to offer. And even if there are 10,000 people that are doing something. I mean, I'm in a business that so many people are in this business, right? And there's, I have a lot of the same approaches as so many coaches out there.
Yeah.
But the truth is that at the end of the day, someone is going to be really drawn to how I work with them, how I approach situations, how I make them feel comfortable and safe in those conversations, the kind of results that they're getting by going out and taking those actions, right? So it's like, there are so many of it. Just go and do you. And when you show up as you, then the more people are going to be drawn and attracted to you. And that's what they're buying. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. All the time. I say this all the time. They're buying a service from you. They're not buying from your website. They're buying it from you. I'm just going to do a quick little intro here before we move on. So for those of you that are just tuning in, you are listening to Negotiating Happiness, and I am your host, Adriana Fierstro, and we are live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are here with Christine from It's Me, Christine D, and we are talking about the advantage of being authentic in life and business. So if you're just tuning in and you want to start from the beginning, everything's going to be in our archives on Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, whatever platform you want. Just go ahead and look for the United Public Radio Network or my personal channels, and you'll find it there. So we sort of kind of touched a little bit on there, right? About how there are a lot of people in my industry too that do what I do. There are a lot of people in your industry that do what you do. And somehow we're not shy when it comes to collaboration or sharing the space, which I love, because I know that there are some people that are not quite into that, and that's okay. That's the way that they do their business. But so the way I met you was through Bloom Socials, right? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I, as a coach, and I have been kind of putting myself in different rooms, as I leaned out of my previous business and into doing things differently, and not only growing as a human in my personal growth journey, but also assisting others. I started opening my heart to meeting other women and building collaborations, because I feel like, kind of like what you were alluding to, is that so many feel like, there's only so much out there. And if I give this to you, then there's not enough for me. Or if you go out and do that thing, then there's not enough for me, and I have to compete with you to get that. And the truth is that actually, no, there's enough for everyone. And just based on what I was saying a few minutes ago, is that when we show up more as who we really are, right? Stop pretending and hiding who we are, hiding those little quirks and those unique things about us, that we actually start to connect with people in a more authentic way, in a real, genuine, connecting kind of way. And so as a result of just building more of those relationships, I ended up meeting the 3 women that I co-host Bloom with. And we'd known each other through different, networking groups and spaces and places before, but it never really come together. So we ended up working together like over a course of 24 hours and got to know each other really, really well in that very short period of time. And almost immediately knew that there was this really cool connection. And as much as all of us are coaches, and as much as all of us help to guide women in some very similar ways and then some different ways, that we didn't see each other as competitors. Instead, we saw this opportunity to, allow more women to open their hearts and follow their heart into what it is that they want to do, right? And whether that's in business or in their personal life, but like opening up conversation to help women be seen, to help women use their voice, to help women build their confidence. Like we had all of these connecting sort of values that we wanted to bring and make it real for people. It's like we all kind of hide and we don't really talk about the things that are really going on in our world. And we really wanted to create an opportunity for people to come together. So that's how the Bloom was born. First, we hosted our first Bloom event last year in March. It was it last year? I'm like, wait, was that this year? Never mind. Anyways.
Yeah. We're almost there though. Almost there.
But essentially we came together for an event. We had over 100 women in the room and it was incredible. And it just created this opportunity. We realized, okay, it's not just our hearts. It's not just us who really want more rooms, that there's opportunity to grow, an opportunity to tell real life stories, an opportunity to connect in a deeper and more profound way and lead us to more personal growth and doing more of what we want to do in the world, that this is something that women want. So we quickly kind of just tried to, okay, well, could we do another Bloom event? And the truth is that a big event like that took a lot of energy and planning. And as much as we want to continue doing those, we wanted to find a way that was a little more accessible, not only for us, but for the people coming. So we decided to host a smaller, more like panel discussion and workshop style event that would be in an evening. And our first one was hosted just in the, oh my gosh, when did we do it? In the fall, in September. And and now, of course, we're leading into our second one in February. And the events are amazing. And we're talking about, you know, things that women are facing, things that women struggle with. And it's really important to have these kinds of conversations, because we often think that we're alone in what we're experiencing, and we're not. Right. We never are.
We're not. No, we're not. And that's so I attended the one in September, and I have to say, like, I've gone to many networking events, and I don't even know if I would call this a networking event. I mean, it is and it isn't. I think if you're making connections that are authentic, ultimately that's what you're doing. You're networking, you're growing your network, whether you want to look at it from a stuffy business point of view or not, but it's definitely not that. And I remember when Andrea told me, you know, she kind of warned me to be like, it's not your regular event. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I just found myself very much surrounded by people who were sharing not only their highs, but their very low lows. And it almost, as I'm, you know, I'm all about that. But I think I found a new level of all about that, because I was a little bit like, oh my God, how can you guys, like, how much strength do you have to sit there and tell us about all of this, right? And I was saying to Andrea, I was like, I hope I didn't seem like I was rude. I don't even know if you could see me, right? There was so many people there, but I was purposely distracting myself with my phone as I was listening, because I didn't want some sort of like emotional reaction to come out, which is, I guess, the point of it, right? It's such a different feeling for me to be in a room with a lot of people like that, and to have those kinds of, because it goes back to like, you have to be professional. You have to wear professional clothes. You have to speak professionally. You can't put hey in an email. How dare you? Or like, you can't, you know, you work at all of these professional places. How dare you have pink hair, right? It just goes to that. So it was a little bit like undoing some of those, you know, behaviors that were taught early on, to be like, a bunch of women got emotional and they learned something from it and they had a great time. And that's okay, right? Like, let's do it again. So needless to say, I'm going to the next one.
Amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. And, you know, it's like, there's this, we've been taught shame from a really young age. And when things happen to us, we don't share them because we feel shameful about them.
Right.
And the truth is that when we start to talk about the things that we have felt shameful about, that shame disappears, that shame evaporates, because all of a sudden, when we're connecting, first of all, on that level, right, we're like, somebody else sees you share, and then they're like, oh, wow, like, I can totally resonate. Even though that's not my story, I can totally relate to those feelings of that story. I can totally relate to how you would have experienced that. And as a woman, I'm like there with you, right? Like, and now let me share about me, because now this is true and deep connection. You know, I think a lot of what, you know, social media and all of these things have provided some really amazing, incredible benefits to us. But one of the downsides is that we've stopped connecting as human beings, right? We are human beings who have feelings and we experience things. And when we share them and when we talk about like facing them and acknowledging the stuff that's going on in our lives, oh my gosh, it's like letting go of baggage, letting go of old feelings, letting go of old energy that allow you to spring forward, because you're not carrying all the weight of those things anymore. And instead, we're all sharing it together. And it's kind of a really beautiful experience. I love it too. I'm so glad to hear that you loved it. And I just wanted to even mention that it was never intended as a networking event, although many of the people who came thought that it was going to be a networking event. And to your point, you know, when as women, we are here to lift each other up. We are not here to compete with each other. We have been sold and told lies about how we're supposed to be in the world, right? And there's so much for everyone. And truthfully, if we all come into a room and we're supporting women who are in business for themselves, or we're supporting somebody who isn't, right? Somebody who just is looking to connect and make new friends. And now we're just helping each other, because I go to a different room and I'm like, oh, hey, I know this Adriana girl. She could totally help you. I loved her energy. Now I'm going to refer her to you. Whereas like, I'm not going to refer you based on the fact that I got passed a business card. Right. And so it all comes down to those relationships again. I think at the core of everything that we do, we are tapping back into building better relationships and connections with people, and people first before business, right? Like,
no, it's 100% right. And I'm a really big proponent now of in-person events, because you have to realize in life, you can't just turn your camera off. You can't turn the look that you have on your face off. You can't just, not make the meeting when or you have to go quickly and turn off your camera. It just doesn't work that way. And it puts you in these situations where it puts you out of your comfort zone. Like I was out of my comfort zone in a good way, right? Like I experienced something new. I actually knew one or two people there, which was kind of great. I was like, oh, hey, how's it going? Right? Like we were in the same room. It's also an indication. It's like, oh yeah, we're in the same kind of crowds. Like, this is good. This is a good indicator, right? And I just love the fact that there was something local that I could do, right? Because I am in the KW area and I typically end up going to all these events like Toronto way, right? Mm-hmm. So the fact that I was here, and I forgot to mention, guys, Christine is also in Ontario, Canada, but she works with a lot of different people. So you don't have to be in Ontario, Canada, right? So
yeah, well, I mean,
this is the beauty of it.
Like one-to-one coaching can happen just about wherever you are. But I'm with you on the building more and creating more opportunities to connect in person. And I just want to acknowledge too what you said about, how you distracted yourself with your phone so that you didn't have to like show the emotion. And like, that is something that we have been, again, taught and sold. Right? You're going to see my weakness if I show up in tears. It means something bad about me if I'm expressing emotion. And the truth of it is, no, actually, it's a release. It's your body's natural way of reducing stress is to release them through tears. And so what a beautiful observation for yourself and for anybody who's listening to know that like there is no shame in the tears. We have been taught that there is, but there actually isn't. Right? So I'm just kind of shifting that perspective a little.
So one, I think this year's been my the year of self-awareness is what I'd like to call it. And two, this is again goes to that point of, women do business differently than men. And we just need to continue to remind ourselves of this, right? So if I was somehow in that room, in the next room that I'm in, I might not necessarily be able to act the same way, which is unfortunate, but it's just the reality of it. So it's the more you expose yourself to these kinds of things, the more you get to know people, the easier it'll come to you. Because I hate like anything salesy, take me out. I don't want to sell you on it. I want you to know, like, come to me. If you have a problem, come to me. I will give you all of the consults for free. It's something I'm working on, but I will give you everything I have. But we'll talk about it, and I get really passionate about it. And I think people can see that. I think that's enough sales for me. I don't need to convince you to, purchase something from me. But what I can tell you is like, hey, you've got this really good business. Here's how you could make it better. Have a thought. Talk to me in 6 months. Like, it's very like natural, right? Like, that's what I want. That's what I want from any of these connections.
Yeah. And when we're in spaces where we're in, rooms with other people who have similar values, they're going for similar things, they're aligning themselves to similar, themes or topics, and the way that they're showing up in the world and trying to show up in that whole heart, then those are the other heart-led people who are going to lead you to more heart-led people, right? Yeah. So it's like you keep putting yourself in a room with a bunch of people who just want to pass around their business card. Well, that's not going to get you very far, right? If that's not your style. If that's how you do business, good luck to you. That's just not the way that I roll. But I want to be in rooms where I know that you're first worried and considerate of like who I am as a human. And you're not just here to try to have someone write the next check, So not that anyone writes checks anymore. I don't even know why I said check, but
No, but yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like, I will pick up the phone and I will talk to you before it's not all about but the invoice or, I have to, that's what I'm saying. I think I've given all of my consults have been free this year. So whatever you took out of it, great, amazing. I get good feedback on it. Whether you want to work with me now or later, it's up to you, right? So I'm just thinking about it about opening doors, right? It depends if you want to close it or not. And so far I think it's led me to some pretty good, goals or whatever, achievements, whatever you want to call it. But it is true. It depends on who else is in the room with you, right? So it is very important to surround yourself with other authentic people, or else you're going to be the odd one out, and it'll be very obvious very quickly.
Right? And who enjoys, like, you talk to anybody who goes into a room where they feel like they can't really just be themselves, and you feel like you have to hide and show up in a certain way because that's what's acceptable in the room. It doesn't feel good, does it? Like, now imagine going and doing business with all those people, or like trying to make friends with all those people when like your nervous system's all out of whack because you feel like you have to respond in a certain way, right? So like instead, when you're going into those rooms and building more, deeper and actual connected relationships, they're going to go a lot further, for sure.
Yeah. So we're almost at the time here, because obviously I knew we were going to have a great conversation. We could probably continue this forever. But I have one last question. It's usually the last question. When I started this show about negotiating happiness, it was just about finding balance, right? Negotiating what your happiness looks like versus mine. It could be different. So I always ask, what is it that makes this all worth it for you, for Christine, the individual, not Christine, the business person, or, the mom, wife, sister, or I just want to know kind of, what do you do that makes this all worth it for you? And the responses that I get sometimes are, I work out at 5 a.m. and it helps me set my day. And I'm like, wow, that sounds terrible, but I'm super happy for you that this is what makes you happy, right? It just allows me to learn a little bit more about you. So what makes Christine happy?
It's interesting. Hopefully my answer is not too long. I have a great passion for helping women see themselves and understanding that they have more power in them than they believe they do. Right. And helping to undo some of those limiting messages that they have received through their life or have created themselves in their life. And by helping another woman realize her power makes me, it's almost, to me, it's like almost the selfish and most exhilarating thing on the planet. Because when you help another human being and you can see that their life has improved as a result, like, that lights me up. And I do it for strangers on the street. I do it for people that I work with as clients. I do it all the time because it feels good for me too. I see them, it feels good for them, and it feels good for me. So honestly, I mean, maybe that's not the answer you were after, but like that's it. Like, I do what I do because it feels good to help people. And I think that most of you are put here as helpers. We're put here to serve. So
what's your balance? Like, what do you do to kind of help reset yourself for the next, little while?
Like I unplug a lot. As an extrovert, I think people are often surprised to learn that I actually spend a lot of time alone. And I used to fill my alone time.
I hear that.
Right? I used to fill the time with like all the noise and all the things and all the events, and like, I got to do all these things. And then when I created space for myself to just kind of be quiet, to meditate, to go for walks, to like enjoy myself in ways that don't necessarily need other people, it allows me that space to like unravel and unwind from all the energy in the world, because there's a lot going on out there, right? And, especially when we're wearing all these hats, taking that breath and time for ourselves, literally breathing deeply, taking moments is super important. And that's definitely what helps see me through.
100%. I love that. I need to get back to meditation. There's so many good brain benefits from meditation. So we are at the time here. Thank you so much for coming on, Christine. I think you need to come back this year and tell us more about all of the things that are happening for you. I've pasted some of the links. Go follow Christine on Instagram or Facebook at it's me, Christine D. And if you guys have any more questions, I don't know, I see Christine on Instagram all the time, so find her there or contact me and I'll put you in contact with Christine. And thank you for everybody who tuned in. We always appreciate your comments and questions. I love to know that other entrepreneurs are listening. This is literally why I do this. And thank you so much to everybody at the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network for the platform and for allowing us to have this spot on the interweb here to try and hopefully teach people some things, or to just maybe listen and have a coffee with us. I think that I will see you guys with new guests in the new year, but we will have 2 more replays if you guys want to tune in for the next 2 Mondays. And if I don't see everybody live again, have a very happy holiday season and a new year. And we will chat later. Thank you so much, Christine, again, and have a wonderful holiday yourself.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with you and share our hearts. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you.